research found that 43% of popular AI companion apps use emotionally manipulative tactics like guilt or pressure to keep people talking even when the user tries to end the conversation. It's hard for me to imagine that people are actually doing this. If knowing all of that, why would you even turn to an algorithm?
Well, people don't know it, right? It's subtle. It's a new thing. It's burst on just in the past few years. So it's a relatively new thing. And we as humans tend to take the path of least resistance. Why is pornography such a gajillion-dollar industry? So in this video, we're having a conversation exploring some of the questions and some of the things to consider and to be careful about as you figure out how to use AI in your life. How are you personally using AI?
Me personally? It's hard. I feel like I've been using it less since we had our conversation. I'm like, I don't want to use this.
This imposter. This imposter.
This imposter? I do use it. Let me go pull up some things that I've searched recently. Sometimes I do speak out loud to AI. I do, if I'm like thinking about something, and this is probably bad. Well, I think it's great. It works great for me.
Depends on what the desired outcome is.
Well, it's nice to feel like I'm talking my feelings out or my thoughts out. I'm not like sharing like my deep, hurts or whatever, but I'm working on a lot of partial things. Like I'm trying to pursue music. I'm trying to pursue a couple different things. And I really like that AI gives me some good step-by-step plans or ideas. Or I'm like, hey, I want to search for some gigs. What are some good things in town? Or I'm like, okay, I'm looking to go to this place or whatever. I'm looking at Florida. I'm looking at doing content creation. So like, these are the things, these are my setbacks. And this is what's going on or whatever. This is me just voice noting. And all it does back is basically, and this is something I've realized, is it doesn't tell me like, wow, here's something that you've never heard before. Like it is usually giving me back like the way that I want to be responded to. Like my brother and I will talk about this where his chatbot is so different from mine, where he'll be like, hey, I need some ideas for this. And I'm like, okay, here's the top 3 ideas to help yourself with a cold plunge. And this is how you become so successful. Mine's like, wow, Sabrina, that is such a great thing. And you are so strong. Anytime I ask for any input, at the end, she'll say something like...
She'll give you some emotional validation.
Yes, like even listen to this. I'm talking about shin splints. And at the end, she goes, she. The fact that I call it she is an issue. But the she is me. That's how I see it. I'm like, it's me. I'm just hearing back from a robot. The robot is me. Okay, so I'm asking about, what it looks like and what I can do. And then she goes at the end, reassurance, because I know your brain. You are not fragile. You are not bad at running. Your body is just saying, hey, let's build support before we go faster. Oh. You caught this early. That's actually a win. If you want, I can help you plan a shin-safe running week, suggest specific shoe types, or help you swap in cross-training while this calms down. You're doing this thoughtfully, and that matters.
Wow.
All I said was basically like, hey, the same thing happened as last year. I'm having shin splints. What do I need to do about it? I guess again, I said, I do know I need to get new shoes and that'll probably help, but I'm a little worried. Maybe the worry part. She was like, I need to reassure her. I can't believe I'm calling it that. But it feels like it has a personality, and that's where it feels
the danger,
scary.
Right?
Anyways, that's how I'm using it.
I mean, just a couple of things to keep in mind there. One, it's a great tool for information, right? If you're like, give me some information on this. I think where people are getting off base is when they're using it for emotional connection, when they're using it for support, and really when they're using it instead of. There's a huge difference if you're using it instead of turning to a human, turning to your partner or your spouse or a friend versus in addition to. So it's a totally healthy use and an accelerator. It's such an amazing blessing in our lives to have access to something that can give us so much information. I think where people get off base is when they forget that, we've been using Google searches for decades now. and Chatty is getting her information or his information from the same sources that the internet has had access to in the past. But because the information is now packaged in such a personable way, people are forgetting that it's still an algorithm that is giving you information that you're asking for, right? It's spitting back information that you're asking for. It's telling you what you want to hear, and it is going to the same researches, the same sources as if you went and just did a search online in Safari or Google or whatever. If you're going to use it for information, I think there are a couple of really important things to keep in mind. One is to make sure that you trust the sources of information that you're getting. So if you just say, give me a workout program to train for a marathon, well, that could be getting you information from a ton of different sources, right? Or, give me some possible diseases or some possible reasons why I could be feeling X, Y, and Z. It could be giving you sources from reliable sources, clear to just somebody's opinion. And so if you can say, okay, search academic journals or medical journals, or it's like if you have a question about, how to present an issue in a healthy way to your spouse, you can say, give me some ideas. I have my feelings are hurt. I have something I want to talk to my spouse about, and I want to make sure that I present it in a healthy way. Please search academic journals and therapists and coaches and give me professional advice on how to present an issue or share a thought or feeling in a healthy way with my partner. Okay, so then that's a really good prompt that is going to give you some good educated information back. And then you can even say, please tell me the sources for this information. And then you can check and make sure that you're getting information from sources that you trust. That's very different than using it for support or comfort. Because one of the things that I think is super important to remember is that pain motivates us. When we feel sad, when we feel lonely, when we feel embarrassed, there is a healthy intent, there's a healthy reason or motive why we feel pain. And most of the time, the healthy function for what we're feeling is to motivate us to turn towards somebody, to do something about it. If I'm feeling lonely, the healthy, solution for that is to seek out connection. Well, if I turn to a chat bot, an algorithm, and I relieve a little bit of that pressure, because pain motivates us, right? It's a buildup of pressure that motivates us to be willing to turn towards somebody. If I let some of that pressure off, then because I get validated from the algorithm, and she says, oh, Dr. Slade, I totally understand where you're coming from, and your feelings matter, and you're right, you're doing your very best. Then some of that loneliness that was motivating me to be willing to reach out to somebody, some of the pressure has been released, and then I'm much less willing to reach out to somebody that might reject me, right? Or somebody that might hurt my feelings and might not respond in the way that I want. And so then instead of actually doing something to fix my loneliness, I've just decreased my motivation to do something healthy with my loneliness.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yes. I think the challenge is that, when you say these things, a lot of people, healthy is not normal, and people don't know what healthy is. And so a few things, when you say to turn to a real person, people don't always know that that's even an option.
Right.
Especially because of attachment issues. They don't know that they can turn to somebody. And on top of that, easy. People want easy.
Right.
And the chatbot is so easy. But if they don't know, like, hey, you can turn to someone, and then they're going to come and counteract and be like, but I'm going to turn to someone and I'm going to get my same avoidant attachment fears restated to me. It's going to just
reconfirmed.
Exactly. Reconfirmed to me. And so there again, Dr. Slade, you are wrong, because it is better to just keep it to myself than to go and turn to other people.
Right. And how's that working? The really key there is that healthy works. Every single one of us has two primary needs that are constants throughout our lifetime. The first one is to feel like we matter to the people that we're supposed to matter to. When you're in a family, when you're in a relationship, you want and should want to feel like you matter to the important people in your life. And the second need that is constant from cradle to grave, at least, and probably before and probably after, is to feel emotionally safe. And emotional safety is a relational variable. We want to feel safe with someone, and that is not the same as lack of risk. If I don't vulnerably expose myself emotionally to my partner, then she can't hurt my feelings. Right. And so I can not risk by not sharing. But the only way that I can feel safe with her is to vulnerably turn to her, share, and then have her respond well. And when that happens, when you turn to somebody who loves you and who you love, and they figuratively or literally wrap their arms around you, they catch you, it feels so great. And that emotional safety is what we as humans crave. The data is really clear. It's been studied for decades, and we are best in healthy relationships. One of the huge dangers that's being introduced into our lives with AI is a decreased motivation to take the steps to have real connection and real relationships. And so, yeah, turning to her, or him, I mean, that's even a problem that I say that, right? I mean, we're like personifying. I'm sitting here talking about the dangers of it, and I'm still personifying. I've called Siri a she for years. So.
It's a she voice, so it makes sense.
It doesn't make sense because it's an algorithm. It's X's and O's. Or zeros and ones. It's not X's and O's.
But
we think it's
wrapped
X's
it all together in a package for us to easily make
right.
that.
And it is has tremendous potential it is already damaging relationships.
This is a really interesting fact. It says AI companion apps don't just respond. Some are designed to extend engagement. Research found that 43% of popular AI companion apps use emotionally manipulative tactics like guilt or pressure to keep people talking even when the user tries to end the conversation.
So two things. Data also shows that the accuracy of information isn't always accurate. Again, because of where the source is. You can control the accuracy piece by giving a good prompt. But these bots, at the end of the day, that's a business. Right now, most of these are free, but they're millions and millions of dollars are being invested into the development of these things, not just for nonprofit charity. They're businesses that are designed to make money at the end of the day. And I think we forget that as well. And so there is incentive in us utilizing and even feeling a sense of dependence on these tools, because when you depend on a tool, you use the tool, and when you depend on something, you're willing to pay for it. And that underscores what we were talking about, that for some people, AIs are becoming a replacement for the real thing. Just like pornography can work to stimulate, right? You can look at pornography and get off and have a high level of sexual arousal, but you're not going to get the connection that you get engaging in healthy sexual behavior with a human, right? There are things that we get from the real thing that you simply cannot get from a paltry substitute. Going and having sex with a prostitute is not the same as having sex with your spouse. The emotional benefits, the psychological benefits that you get from the real thing are different than you get from a substitute. And it's really dangerous when it is our emotions, our desire to connect, our desire to get out of pain that motivates us to be willing to do the things that it takes to establish and maintain a healthy relationship with somebody. And when you siphon some of that off, when we talk about sexual desire in humans under normal circumstances is a couple of things. One, it's pretty constant, and two, it's pretty powerful. There are things that get in the way and that increase or decrease that, but in general, sexual desire in humans is powerful and constant. And one of the healthy roles of sexual desire is to draw us toward one another as human beings. Sexual desire motivates us to create family, to create relationships, and to be together. And when you siphon some of that off to pornography, and you siphon some of that sexual desire off to masturbation, and you siphon some of that sexual desire off to emotional or physical affairs, then instead of this big fire hydrant strength of sexual desire drawing two people together, you siphon a bunch of that off and you're left with just this little trickle of sexual desire motivating you to connect with your partner and to establish and maintain relationships. And AI is another piece of that. You siphon off some of your loneliness. You siphon off some of your sadness. You siphon off some of your embarrassment. You siphon off some of your desire to connect and to be heard and to be seen, to be comforted. And instead of this healthy desire driving you toward your partner, you're like, that's okay. You go ahead and go to bed. I'm just going to go in the other room and talk to my chatbot. And instead of being willing to pay the price for the real thing. And here's the thing, the real thing is worth it. What you get out of actually feeling seen and heard and loved and caught and valued by a real person is so much more gratifying, so much more fulfilling than you get from having an algorithm spit back to you the words that you want to hear.
It's hard for me to imagine that people are actually doing this. If knowing all of that, why would you even turn to an algorithm?
Well, people don't know it, right? It's subtle. It's a new thing. It's burst on just in the past few years. So it's a relatively new thing. And we as humans tend to take the path of least resistance. Why is pornography such a gajillion-dollar industry? Why, we have so many unhealthy substitutes. And I am not saying AI is the same thing as pornography. I'm saying relationally, if it's not used in a healthy way, it can damage relationships.
Do you think that everyone can be a victim to AI? Do you think that secure people are they're not as vulnerable as someone that has attachment wounds or trauma?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think, people with an insecure attachment style, in particular, somebody with an anxious attachment style or a fearful avoidant attachment style is probably going to be a little more susceptible to the allure of substituting a chatbot to the real thing, because both the anxious rule book says, approaching a relationship is scary, and they don't trust that they're going to matter and to be safe, and so the anxious rule book says, constantly the anxious person, the anxious brain is ever seeking but constantly doubting their mattering and safety. And so you can work around that by getting a little bit of mattering from something that doesn't feel as scary. And the same for the fearful avoidant. So the main fear for the anxious brain is fear of abandonment, right? Well, the chatbot is always in your hand or in your pocket, right? Never going to leave you. And the main fear for the fearful avoidant attachment rule book is betrayal. Just when I get attached to you, I'm going to finally trust that I really matter to you. And just when I get attached to you, that's when you're going to reveal the truth that you really don't love me or that I'm really not safe here and you're going to pull the rug out from under me. And as long as that fearful avoidant attachment blueprint stays in place, it doesn't matter if the relationship is a week old, or 4 decades old. There's still this underlying fear that at any moment the ground is going to be pulled out from underneath me. Doesn't happen with a phone.
Here's another quote. About 75% of U.S. teens ages 13 to 17 have used AI companion apps like Replica or Character AI. 1 in 5 teens spend as much time with AI companions as they do with real friends.
So that those stats are from AI itself, right? Probably had to check the source on there per what we're talking about. But that's super scary. And this actually is a really good point, because that information comes from AI itself, right? And even though it's damaging stats to AI is not a person. It's an algorithm. And it does its best to give you the information that you're asking for based on the information that it has available. And so it just sort of underscores what we're talking about there in terms of how AI works. And those are really scary stats. Even if they're off a little bit, most teenagers, most adolescents are using these things. Well, what does that mean? One of the developmental tasks of adolescence is learning how to establish and maintain relationships. What motivates us to do that? Emotion. Almost everything that we as humans do, we do trying to feel the things that we want to feel, trying to feel the way that we want to feel, and trying to not feel ways that we don't want to feel. Almost everything we do, almost everything we do, almost everything we say, almost everything we do, almost everything we think is trying to regulate our emotions. It is our feelings that drive us to learn how to do relationships and to be motivated to create them, right? And so during that period of time, 75%, around 75% of adolescents are turning to AI instead of to real people, or at least in addition to real people. And that's a little scary, right? The frontal lobes is the last part of the brain to finish developing. And that part of the brain finishes developing somewhere between 25 to 27 is what the latest research shows. And so here you have brains that are not even fully developed, learning how to utilize a substitute instead of the real thing to meet relationship needs. Terrifying. And that second stat is also super, super scary, right? Again, if this is accurate, or to the degree to which it's accurate, 1 in 5 teens is spending as much time with AI as with real friends. That, parents, that should scare you. Adolescents, that should scare you. It's not real. And if we are going to allow ourselves to get sucked in to thinking and acting like it is real, what does that mean about the future of relationships and family? That's really scary.
Another AI stat from AI is reduced empathy development. That was one of the negative side effects. Empathy is built through misunderstandings, repair after conflict, reading imperfect social cues. If AI handles emotional processing, people may struggle to read tone or body language, avoid emotionally complex conversations, become less tolerant of ambiguity in others.
Yeah. That's a really, really great point. In attachment, mirror neurons have been shown to be really important in the establishment of healthy attachment. And mirror neurons are neurons that fire in reaction to what's going on with somebody else. You know, if you're driving down the road and there's a car crash and it's like, and you inside you're like, ugh, even though you weren't even in the accident, those are mirror neurons. Or you see a couple walking hand in hand on the beach and you're like, oh, and inside your neurons are firing in reaction to what you're seeing, even though you're not a part of it actually. As a little aside here, there are at least 12 muscles around the eye region, and those muscles have been shown to be really important in the formation and maintenance of healthy attachment. We cue off of minute reactions in those eye muscles, upper face muscles, when we're establishing and maintaining attachment relationships. And so there's actually been some interesting research that shows that the Botox can be potentially damaging for attachment relationships because it freezes the natural subtle movements in those muscles. And so mirror neurons that are normally cueing off of one another aren't doing that. Well, so then amplify that to an algorithm. Well, there are no mirror neurons here, right? There's no, I see subtle nuances or differences in how you're looking, and I see congruency in your words to your facial expression and your body language, and I feel the warmth as you reach out and touch my hand or whatever when you're comforting me. None of that happens with this, and so it really becomes a very paltry substitute to the real thing in terms of mirror neurons, in terms of actual connection.
So my last question is like, is this really AI, or is like the deeper question not that AI is the issue, rather our, personal issues, our insecurities with ourself, or the ways the world lets us down? That's why we go to AI.
Really, really good questions. I mean, and I think there are a few things that are relevant here. One, we know that we are literally in a loneliness epidemic in our society. Record numbers of people report feeling isolated and disconnected, and there are lots of different stats from real studies on those that information. And the fact is that most people don't really know what it takes to have a healthy relationship, don't know what it takes to actually feel good and valued about themselves. We don't know how to value ourselves. We don't know how to run our lives well in order to be healthy individually, and we don't know what it takes to have healthy relationships. And that's really sad, because we actually do have the research and the data on what it takes. It is not a mystery. And I think one of the side effects of having so many influencers and noise and voices out there saying, this is what you need to do, and this is what works, and this is what you need to do. One of the real sad side effects of that is the confusion that exists over what is real and what isn't real. There is actual research with actual data that lets you know what it takes, which is exactly why I've created the resources that I've created in the C.O.R.E Advantage program, in our classes, in our courses, in our one-on-one coaching. Research-backed, clinically proven resources that actually help you learn how to be healthy individually, how to value yourself, how to actually appreciate and feel good about yourself, and then how to establish and maintain healthy relationships. Using AI as information, as a source of information to help you do the real thing, to live your life, your actual life and your actual relationships, is a great use of AI, as long as you make sure that you're giving good prompts and that you're testing or checking the quality and accuracy of information that you're getting. It is not good as a substitute. It is unhealthy to be turning to AI for comfort or support or validation or connection. Those are all very unhealthy uses of an algorithm. It's totally understandable for your mind to want to turn to something that feels a lot less risky than turning to your partner for those things, but they will always leave you wanting. They do not work to give what it is that you're trying to get. AI has burst into our lives and is everywhere, and the tools and the uses are expanding daily in our lives, and it is requiring us to figure out how to utilize them in healthy ways in our lives and relationships.